later.
Still late.
Good afternoon. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It's Friday, March 20th, 2026. It's about 12:50. And I'm looking at the wrong thing on my computer. We have Grady with us from Joint Fiscal, and that means it's language time for the budget. So Grady.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Grady Nixon, Joint Fiscal. So the committee should have in front of them a packet of language additions. There are a few sections where I'll defer to members of the committee to discuss them, as I think they'll be better disposed to do so than I am. On page 1 of the document, this is section C100. This would be amending the budget adjustment that you just enacted. Finance and Management flagged that the Commissioner of Finance and Management doesn't have authority to transfer from the Human Services Caseload Reserve. So this would be just striking that transfer directive and adding in that an amount of funds equal to the deficiency shall be appropriated. This relates to if they need to draw from the Human Services Caseload Reserve for
The payment reform, the disability payment reform that we did in the budget adjustment. We gave them a couple of options. If they can't find it in their budget, this is their plan B. Okay, thank you. Is everybody okay with that one?
The only change is the
Yeah.
technical change in finance.
Correct.
It has the authority to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
On page 2, this is another technical correction. So the top funds that were approved in the budget adjustment, there was language saying that that would be to restore the community partners to their FY25 appropriation level, and the numbers didn't match what those were. So this is just striking that language saying that the numbers match the FY25 appropriation level.
The dollars were what we wanted, but this language didn't match what we wanted. So you have to take that out. So is everybody okay with that? I'm going to just ask as we go along, so then you know we're done with it. Okay, I think we're good on that.
On page 3, so this relates to the fiscal year end balance carry forward, that's 74.9. Because of changes in the miscellaneous tax bill, there will actually be less in FY26 on the bottom line. So that number just needs to be reduced from 74.9 to 70.9.
That was the 3.96 million in the miscellaneous tax bill that we saw. That gets, yeah. Okay, everybody all right with that? Okay.
Beginning on page 4, this would be a C section. This relates to changes to the allocation of the Act 73 appropriation. So you'll see that in sub 1, funds are being increased, and then in sub 3, funds are being reduced. And then there's various language relating to the use of those appropriations. And this is happening in a C section because it's making amendments to appropriations in the current fiscal year.
So a little background, I was part of a meeting in AFO and Ledge Council and whoever we were finding that things, last year we appropriated 4 million or something like that. And it wasn't very clear about where things should go because they didn't know and we didn't know. And now that we're further along, we know where the numbers should be and we're clarifying what they can and can't do. We're concerned that there might be duplication of efforts in a couple of areas because Joint Fiscal Office was tagged with money and tasked with hiring a consultant to do certain things around special ed. And we didn't want it duplicated with the same money in the Agency of Ed. So it's things like that got fixed to clarify what's happening. So. That sound okay to everybody? Great.
On page 7, you can disregard the transfer from the Transportation Infrastructure Bond Fund to the Transportation Fund that the committee decided to keep in the T-bill that you heard this morning. So this document was printed before the committee made that decision. That transfer will happen in the T-bill and won't appear in your budget. In sub B, in sub D, you'll see language relating to the Technology Modernization Fund. This directs that an amount equal to interest earned on that fund in FY23, 4, and 5, estimated to be 9.5 million, shall be transferred to the general fund.
That was our one-time money on our budget for this year. So the miscellaneous tax took care of the base, and then this is the one. Thank you. So we're getting rid of 8 in this section, A8, or it's section A, or at least 8, but we're not getting rid of B.
Right, B is just to provide context.
Okay,
So it will be in a sub D, but the sub B is
Right.
the direct apps that show up in the bill.
okay.
And this you can think of as also being a direct app. It just is worded differently because it's an estimated number.
Very specific. And so we're basically just eliminating lines 5, 6, and 7 on that page.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Section E101 or E100.1, this is amending language that showed up in Act 27 relating to the ARPA suite from a couple of years ago. So ARPA funds had to be obligated by a certain date, and then they had to be expended by a certain date. Language in Act 113 directed that those ARPA funds that weren't obligated by a certain date would then revert and be reappropriated to existing ARPA projects. And then this was reporting language back on that reestablishment of spending authority.
Right, so we want the reporting to go out longer than.
Exactly. So this would just maintain that spending authority report back continues. And then in sub C, the original language required a reversion and reserve of any funds that were left over. That and sub C actually refers to ARPA money that will be gone by that time. So they won't be able to revert it because it won't be in the state coffers.
Okay, everybody all right with that?
So it's being reserved, but it's not being repaid.
So the money that was general fund, originally ARPA funds were appropriated, then they were reverted, and then general fund could be applied to those ARPA projects. That money, if it's not spent by December 31st, 2027, would be reverted. But the and sub C that's being struck there is referring to ARPA funds that stayed ARPA funds. So
And those had to be spent, they would have to be spent before this would.
exactly.
So what we did last year, Marty, was we put language in the budget that would allow expenditures to go because even though it has to be expended by December 31st of 2026, some of the projects were going to take longer. And that some of that was general fund money was going to take longer, but we wanted to give them a longer time to finish those projects, but not forever. So that's why it's reverts back to the general fund.
Okay.
We gave them an extra year to finish up the projects that were originally ARPA projects, but used general fund.
And any ARPA that's left will be brought back.
Right, anything that's truly ARPA
Go back.
at the end of December has to go back to the federal government.
Exactly.
We hope there won't be. We'll hear about that later. Okay,
On page 10, so this is taking language that was in Act 27 and just also putting it in this budget, requiring a report from the Agency of Administration at each meeting of the Joint Fiscal Committee in July, September, and November of 2026 on any reductions to federal revenues to the state. So this would just be requiring that report again this fiscal year.
these things are still happening. Okay with that? All right, looks good.
On page 11, this would be a section E105, amending the Technology Modernization Special Fund statute to specify that in the event of a negative balance in the Information Technology Internal Service Fund at the end of a fiscal year, the interest from the Technology Modernization Special Fund shall be transferred to the IT Internal Service Fund.
That we sometimes call the CIT fund. So that's the mechanism for starting to bring down the deficit in that fund. Correct? So that has the $25 million deficit.
Yes. And so this would apply prospectively, whereas the transfer language that you saw earlier would apply to interest that was earned on the fund in prior fiscal years.
Pretty good with that? Like it, okay?
On page 13, this is a section E106 that would amend 32 VSA 307 form of budget. This would specify that the budget shall include a document outlining reversions and approved carry forward by appropriation. You'll see that on page 14. So this is the quote unquote carry forward report that was in a prior fiscal year budget as session law. This would be adding it to statute. So this report would automatically be delivered to the General Assembly each year upon delivery of the budget.
Right, so we don't have to keep remembering to ask for it every year. It's just gonna be there because we're gonna document. Okay. Alrighty.
On page 15, this would be requiring the Joint Fiscal Office to produce a number of reports relating to special funds. So in sub A, this would require the Joint Fiscal Office in consultation with the Department of Finance and Management to provide a report with a general overview of special funds and their uses to the appropriations committees this coming December. So that report would be a broad overview, just saying these special funds exist and
Here's how a special fund works. It's like special funds 101.
exactly. And then you'll see in the subdivisions that follow in subsection B, over the course of 4 years, there would be reports more in depth on special funds that fall into particular areas of government that align with the function areas of government that are outlined in the budget. So the first report would be due on December 15th, 2026, and would cover general government, labor, general education, commerce and community development, and transportation. The next would be December 15th, 2027, and cover human services and natural resources. The next would cover protection to persons and properties and be due on December 15th, 2028. And then a final report due on December 15th, 2029 would cover any special funds that didn't fall within those areas of government or that were established after this report process began.
Grady went through and counted number of special funds and worked to break them out. So there is about an equal number of special funds each year for 4 years, which is something like 90 a year.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. Emily did the math on that, but I think it would work out to between 90 and 110 for each report.
Each year, over 4 years. So we're talking about over 400 special funds. And remember when we were talking yesterday about stuff and Trevor talked about we did deep dives? Here we go. Yeah. Stick around. Okay, people good with that?
I'm just wondering about what we're asking for, detailed information. Are we?
Yes, so
Balances, obviously, and what money comes into them and how often and how hard full they are.
on page 16 in sub C, you'll see the report information shall include the authorizing statute for each fund, its date of enactment, and any amendments to the statute, a description of revenue sources and expenditures, including stated purposes of expenditures, the prior year fund balance at closeout, and then any other relevant information on the general management and oversight of the fund. And those reports, we would also have the assistance of legislative counsel. So that amendment research will have their assistance on.
Now, though, is a straight data sheet, right? I mean, you can, there's a file that has special funds and it's just sort of an Excel sheet.
Yes, so the Department of Finance and Management issues a table with special fund year-end balances. Some of them don't show up. For instance, the Tech Modernization Fund isn't on that sheet. So it's meant to be comprehensive, but I think that the initial report would make sure that that's more fully fleshed out.
And the other thing is that special fund report, and I have a copy somewhere in these piles, is an order of when they were created. So there's no logic to the carry forward is sort of by you can tell by because it's the A's come before the D's, but in this it's like whenever. So you have to go through all 15 pages to find your report. So yeah, this would be nice to get this cleaned up.
Or a way so you could access it electronically, like.
Well, actually, if Emily was here, she would be smiling broadly because she would like to have a searchable spreadsheet database for this. Exactly. So great minds. Yep. Okay. So I think it sounds like we're good with that one.
Great.
Thank you, Grady.
On page 17, this would be a section E131 relating to the Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund. So each year, the treasurer per statute has to issue a financial report on the Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund. This language would require the Office of the State Treasurer to consult with the Vermont Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund Council to add some things to that annual report this coming year, including recommendations on how to change on any changes to revenue sources or expenditures from the fund, and any expanded uses of the fund or adjustments to current statutory allocation structure.
So this is the report language that we wanted to get, given that that's the conversation we need to have for that fund here. Thank you. So I think we're good on that one. Yeah.
On page 18, this would be adding in the statutory language relating to the mediator that was in H548. So the position will be created in a section E100 that the committee will see on Monday, but this was the substantive language that was in that bill that would now be carried in the budget.
Pretty good with that? Okay. Thank you.
Beginning on page 19, there are a number of sections relating to the State Ethics Commission. And so
Just to remind you, this came from Martin when he came in to talk to us about this.
right, so I believe the committee has already gone through this language with Mike O'Grady.
Right.
And so this language continues on page 23. This adds numerous sections relating to the State Ethics Commission, including language on the purpose of an appropriation, amendments to various effective dates, and adding state statutory language relating to the ethics handbook, and then detailing submission requirements for that handbook.
Right. So the position is in here, or and then all the other stuff but that should be not a surprise. Okay. Good with that? Looks like we're fine. Thank you.
On page 24, this would be amending 3 VSA 118 to strike a clause that states that at the end of each fiscal year, the unobligated balance in the Secretary of State Services Fund be transferred to the general fund. So this is the Secretary of State requested language that would just keep that unobligated balance in the fund.
And that has not affected our general fund for many years because there has been no money to transfer. So that is kind of a cleanup. So, okay, all right.
On page 25, this relates to directing DEVA to review implementation of family planning codes in the Medicaid program to ensure that all expenditures for family planning services and supplies that are eligible for the 90% federal match rate are receiving that enhanced rate. And then it directs DEVA to provide a progress report to HROC and JFC on or before October 1st.
This will help allow us bring down more federal funds. Okay. Looks like we're good on that.
On 26, this would be repealing the sunset of the UVM Medical Student Incentive Scholarship Program, AHEC. So this would be repealing the repeal of that.
So we can keep going, and you funded that in the budget.
Correct.
Okay.
A little different.
Okay.
The record only will put this off. There's money that's been appropriated that's sitting there that they're spending down. And it's in sunset, but not all the money is spent yet. So it's just a matter of limiting that money so they can finish spending what's in the fund. It's technical. It's not.
Okay, great. Thank you.
On page 27 and continuing on to page 29, these are two sections that relate to HIV/AIDS services program funds and harm reduction services funds. So in the governor's recommended budget, or for context, this is annual language that always appears in the budget. In the governor's recommended budget, they split it out. So there's $475,000 in AIDS medication rebate special fund that goes to Vermont AIDS Service and peer support organizations. And then there, in the GovRec, it's $295,000 that goes to very specifically allocated to 3 organizations for harm reduction services.
Sure.
In your budget adjustment bill, you increase that $295,000 number to $340,000. So part of what this language is doing is maintaining that $45,000 increase. You'll see that in section E 312.1. And then I'll defer to Rep. Bloomley to discuss the rest of this.
I actually, I would like us to meet after this because I just want to make sure we get this right and have been told that this isn't quite right. I mean, the numbers are fine. It's just the order of certain things, the division into two parts. And so I apologize to spend more time on this than you ever should have had to.
So then I would request that the committee jump ahead to page 30.
So we'll hold on this until we hear back from Tiff and Brady.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. On both of them.
So this language would direct the Department of Health to review previous appropriations from the opioid abatement special fund and make recommendations to the opioid settlement advisory committee and committees of jurisdiction regarding which appropriations from that have been funded through that fund could be funded in future years by the substance misuse prevention special fund.
It's a belt and suspenders kind of thing.
That's
It's in the bill, but it also, we felt it was important to put in the budget as well. Because it requires a report. And those reports have gotten lost sometimes, or the ask for the reports have gotten lost in the past.
Okay. All right with that? Okay. Continue.
On page 31, this is a report, or this is language directing Dale to examine what would be required to develop and conduct a data-informed, patient-focused, community-inclusive engagement process, examining the DAs and SSAs. This is language that's adapted from Act 167, frequently referred to as the directive language for the Alder-Wyman report that the Green Mountain Care Board conducted on hospital transformation. This language itself is just adapted to direct Dale to look into what would be required to conduct a similar engagement process. It doesn't direct Dale to actually begin that process. And then on page 32 in sub D, you'll see that there's language directing Dale to, as part of its FY27 budget adjustment presentation, include any request for an appropriation that might be necessary to hire a consultant to support the work that is described in this section.
Okay, everybody. So we thought about putting in money for a report, but it felt like we were just be picking a number out of the air and not really having any described. So this seemed to be the more appropriate step one. We've been talking for years about doing some sort of analysis to understand how this could be done better. So now we're asking for step one.
Isn't this the same as what was on our list once before called the DA study? Is that what?
Was it? Oh,
On our appropriations list. There was one
Yes,
item called
yeah.
the DA
Yeah,
study.
the DA study and there was money. We took the money out.
Right.
And so, but now this is the language to say, okay, Dale, tell us how you would go about developing a process to obtain a report and what it would cost to do that. Instead of throwing money in and we don't even know what it would go for.
No.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask a question. This was not recommended. Was it recommended by Human Services? I don't recall that from the language that.
It is, no, but it is something that a number of us in the body over many years have talked about, and this being a need to really look at this. You know, it's similar to many other things that we have.
Okay.
How can we operate more efficiently and effectively and serve more blue honors, you know, the usual stuff.
Like a transformation.
Yeah, the word I'm heartily tired of, but it's to understand, there's a word, how we can make this system work better.
Yeah, since it doesn't look like it is right now.
It depends on who you talk to and where you live in the state. Some are great, some are not so great.
I'm just wondering if it needs to include the Department of Mental Health and the Vermont Department of Health. given that those are two funding sources for their services.
Yes,
So add into the language in consultation with the Department of Mental Health and Department of Health, or just the Department of Health.
I think so.
we need mental health. That's a big
Yeah.
part of what they do.
Yeah.
EMH and EH.
Okay, so I'll add that to the language in the appropriate places.
Great, and yeah, and Dave and Tip as the two closest to this. Feel free to read this, and if there's any other suggestions you have, let Grady know today.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. Okay,
On page 33, this is language directing the Agency of Human Services to monthly report to the Joint Justice Oversight Committee on its plan to develop the Green Mountain Youth Campus. And then in sub B, it directs the Departments for Children and Families and the Department for Buildings and General Services to not expend funds for further development of that campus until the chairs of relevant and standing committees approve a written analysis required by subsection A of this section.
if that's a question.
I'll want to talk with you about this because did this come from, we heard back from legislative council. And I can't, I don't have it right in front of me, but I think 41 beds is not the correct number. I think it's 14 for that one facility. But I think that there was a concern that Katie McGlynn expressed, and I'm just not sure if this reflects a resolution of that. I asked Chairs Emmons and Wood to just resolve it and get back to you.
This is the most recent language I received on this. So yeah, we can touch base about this as well
All right,
afterward.
Great, thanks.
Nobody's trying to slow down the project, right?
One information before we're then presented a budget for a facility that they've already entered into a contract for. Because that's what has been happening with these high-end secure youth facilities is that they'll come into the budget adjustment and they've already signed a contract, but then want the money for it. And it's not part of the budget presentation.
Yeah. It's
Try that.
hard before the horse, and we want the horse to go first.
I like that too.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Grady.
Unless you're plowing heavy snow like we did in the old days.
Well, we have a little snow right there. Okay,
On page 34, this is a report from the Department for Children and Families to the Appropriations Committees and the House Committee on Human Services and the Senate Committee on Health and Welfare on an actionable phased plan that estimates the amount needed to remove the rateable reduction in the Reach Up program. This same language was in Act 49 of 2023, so this would just be requiring that report again.
so updating. what
Yes.
we did a few years ago. And it's supposed to be every 5 years, so this is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Everybody okay with that? Right? Thank you.
On page 35, this is language directing the Agency of Education to include specific information in its fiscal year 2027 budget adjustment and fiscal year 2028 budget presentations.
And so I'm going to pause you there to remind people that the Agency of Education wanted to combine two numbers, 500 and 501. Sounds like it's not a big deal, but it kind of is because it's harder to see things when two large pieces of the budget get combined. And I talked with JFO about, do we actually want to do this? Do we want to separate it? They did the budget based on this, and to ask them to separate it into two budgets at the 11th hour seemed like a lot of excessive work, but we still want to know stuff. So continue to visit stuff we want to know.
Yeah, so this would direct AOE in both of those presentations to include a comprehensive account of FY27 appropriations, including information on amounts expended or obligated at the time of the presentation submission, an account of anticipated FY27 carry forward, including information on the reasons for expenditure being lower than anticipated, information on all third-party contract agreements that the agency entered into in FY27, organizational charts reflecting the current structure of the agency in each division within it, a written explanation of any changes to the agency's organizational structure and personnel, a comprehensive account of any vacancies within the agency, including information on the duration of each position vacancy and any recommendations for the elimination or redesignation of positions, and information on any changes to federal funding, rules, or policy that may affect the agency and any actions that the agency has taken or may take to address those changes.
Agree with that, John?
I spoke about
You spoke to that too. I think they're really relieved not to have to try to untangle the,
And I send you information along
Yeah.
with me about this is what we'll do to account for everything.
Right, right. so this will give us a handle on what's really happening.
Yeah.
Good.
So they are combining.
They are combining,
They are.
and they did that in their budget presentation, which
Right,
was a surprise to us.
Right,
And so rather than ask them to do two separate budgets, as they're also reconfiguring the entire agency, we said we'd really like to understand this a lot better than you just giving us some big numbers last year.
So my meeting with them on Wednesday to get that clarified, so.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Okay, thank you, Greg.
Beginning on page 36, there are a number of sections relating to changes to adult education law. So I'll defer to the committee on these sections. They continue on to page 38. But I believe this was the negotiated and agreed upon language to make the necessary changes to adult education.
Okay, Lynn,
We changed the adult education, buying things or switched them around a couple of years ago. Is this the continuation of that process?
we think this is the last time.
This is the agreement, yeah.
It's been 6 years we have worked on this, and I want to be sure this is the right language. I'm getting the nod. Okay. May we never see this again. Every year we think we have it, and every year there's something else. So fingers crossed. Grady will not be coming back next year with some other piece. Thank you, Grady.
it
Oh, wait,
sets
go ahead.
out, I just want to
Explain.
explain, it sets out two different formulas. We will use one formula for 2 years because we're in the middle, we've started a 3-year cycle and there are 2 years left. And then it will go to a different formula, very similar, but a different formula for subsequent years beyond that. And it's a formula which allows a certain fixed amount to every county, $80,000. And then the balance of and what else? The balance of what's left then is divided in the first 2 years. That balance is divided, 85% of that balance goes to the counties based upon their number of students previous of the last 2 years average. And 15% goes to the amount of instructional hours that have been provided at the county. After those 2 years go by, then it's the $80,000 base and the balance is 100% based on student numbers. And each county has a calculation of what's available, and then whichever provider serves that particular county, and then those providers are decided by the Agency of Education. They have a competitive way of doing that. Then the provider that covers that county gets that amount of money to offer their services.
Hopefully it's 6 times the charm.
Right. The total amount is not here. The total amount is determined by this other formula that mentions something about 26%. There's a base amount that's from 2005 that they calculate all of the inflationary numbers to that, and they come up with a number for a student, which is not the same as what would be the base amount in the future foundation formula. It's a different number. And 26% of that amount is the amount that goes to each student. And so they take the statewide number of students, times this amount, and they come up with this total amount that's approximately $6 million. And that is paid for partially by the general fund and partially by the education fund. And then this is how they separate out that $6 million.
probably spent more on this topic than we spend in the budget.
Well, I spent a lot of time on it.
I know you have this year, and we've had other people over the years, so thank you, everybody who's been involved in that. Okay, Grady.
On page 39, so this would be two sections amending Act 11 all the way back from 2018. And I'll defer to Rep. Squirrel on this.
Oh,
Oh, the
our special
Volkswagen.
section. Remember that special.
I'm trying to remember now. This is the VW settlement, the emissions issue. And there were certain, by certain date, I think it's 27, October 2, 2027. They have to use all this money or the money gets returned to wherever it goes. I'm not sure where it goes. And it's for EV, light diesel trucks conversion or that shift. And what the department is concerned that they're not going to be able to do that. So they're asking to expand the conversion. It's a conversion within the diesel sphere, right? From burning diesel here, but burning diesel here is cleaner and more emission free. I ran this by House Environment and House Energy, and they're both okay with this change.
So we're expanding who can participate in getting the funds?
Yeah. So that they utilize funds without having to return within the time frame.
Okay, so there were more constraints on it at the time. and
Yeah.
We're basically removing the constraints so that more diesel things
Make it
can
easier
be,
for them to do.
to spend the money.
Expend.
Okay. Are you okay with that? We're not the ones who have to explain it. Go ahead, Wayne.
I want to go back to another previous section, if it's whenever the 415 is.
Let's finish this and then we'll go back, and I have something else I want to add for grading. Okay, so where are we now?
On the final page of the document, page 41.
Okay.
So the governor's recommended budget included a section E 923 with language that said that the transportation fund shall be composed of all interest earned by the fund. The fund itself and funds within the fund and how interest is treated is a bit more complicated than what that language addressed. So the Joint Fiscal Office and AOT and the Department of Finance and Management worked together to just update this. It's a technical change to accomplish what that language in the budget intended, which is just to ensure that all interest earned upon the non-dedicated component of the transportation fund remains in the fund without interfering with how any of the other stuff there works. So this was the consensus agreed upon language after making sure that this worked on a technical level.
Chris, did you want to add something?
Chris from Joint Fiscal, I also just wanted to flag to the committee that you may want to make this provision, should you agree to do it, make it effective fiscal 28. Because the current year budget construct does not assume that the general fund is losing this interest in FY 27. It's to the tune of about $1 million. So if you get this effective next year.
That would be a good thing.
Yeah, it would be. And we talked to finance and management and that call that Grady mentioned a couple of weeks ago. And I think all parties agree that the cleanest path forward would be to make this effective for fiscal 28.
Okay, so you can add language to that?
Yes, that's in the effective date section.
Oh, okay. Those effective dates have become really important, don't they? Okay. I have one thing to ask you about that isn't in here that I think we might need to add, and Wayne had a question about something. What page number, Wayne?
24.
24? Okay,
At the end of each fiscal year, the unoperated balance of the fund will be transferred to the general fund has been struck out. And this gives the Secretary of State like a carte blanche ability to use those funds. You could hire staff or do whatever with those funds. Is that correct?
I would have to review and get back to you. I would have to review the statute. As the chair mentioned, this transfer hasn't occurred in recent years. The money hasn't existed for that.
I understand that they may have made some requests in recent years to use that money for IT upgrades. So there was money there, but they were allowed to use it for something else.
I can look into it and get back to you.
Okay. Ellen?
Thank you. We expecting more language. There's some stuff that we talked about this morning that should have language. Specifically, the my bill is a 567.
Uh-huh. Yeah, there's gonna,
7H and the positions.
right. Are you getting this information, Grady, as we're passing bills out?
Yes, so if I may, we have a list of language from a few other bills, so specifically 558 and 938, and some other language that's floating out there. So we'll be back later on. There's also a couple other JFO drafted things that we'll need to show the committee later on. And then language relating to positions and one-time appropriations, the committee typically on Monday, when you review the bill, JFO works over the weekend to put those together because we need to, we're carrying those on the spreadsheets right now, and then we'll actually have the bill language for it done over the weekend.
Yeah, great. I wonder if Dave, you've got the same thing I was gonna mention, so you go ahead.
I don't know what you're gonna mention, but I had three things.
Okay.
One, back on the AHEC language. And maybe, Grady, maybe you could do this, or I could find Jen, or I could take a hack at it. The rural-free clinics. I'm sorry, yes. Physicians volunteer at the rural-free healthcare clinic, which we have in the budget this year.
The free and reduced.
Thank
Free
you.
referral clinics, yes,
Thank you.
are in the budget.
And I was talking to them about making it a requirement that if I'm the recipient of an AHEC free loan, I volunteer 3 hours a month at the rural free clinic.
Okay, that sounds like a great idea. Has anybody taken testimony on that?
Just me.
Yeah.
No,
I did mine.
that's what, so,
I think that would be a good thing for somebody to talk about next year. I
Okay.
don't want to make big policy changes. I mean,
Understood.
I think it's a great idea,
yep,
and I think that we ought to,
I'll do it. I'll do
that would
that.
be great, Dave.
The second thing is, I didn't see it here, Grady, and I was checking my sent email to find it. I haven't yet. House Human Services requested a budget change in choices for care that would, separate the nursing home and the home and community base so that they were two parts of the budget. Their concern is that they do not believe there's going to be a lot further of nursing home reductions to fund them, but instead that the nursing homes that need help, like through extraordinary financial relief, are going to be doing it at the expense of community-based services.
Right.
I think she believes that by separating them, it's a separate appropriation and.
Right, and I had that on my list too, and I have the language for that she just sent me that was in the committee. I just forwarded that to you, Grady. It's a
Okay.
very short one. I don't know if you've got longer
Yeah.
stuff.
Thank
Well,
you.
This is just, this piece that relates to that.
Yes, and so.
Sorry, I
so
didn't,
Well, that,
wasn't
yeah,
that articulate, yeah.
no, that's great, and better that we all
Okay,
remember that.
so that's on the radar, at least.
It will now be on the radar.
It will now be.
Because I've sent it to Grady.
And third, Grady, if you don't mind, is Emily here? Hi, I just wanted to ask Emily a question. No, it's not like trivia, you have to cover it. One of the providers that we're allocating dollars to in this year's budget wants to be very, very, very clear of where those expenditures are going to go in the Medicaid program, where they get charged to. Grady's thought, a good thought, but was saying, Dave, we can put this in the web report, in the notes section. My question is, will that have the force of law? It's not in any bill. It's a secondary helpful document, but I'm not sure it's part of the statutes.
It does not have the force of law, but it does speak to legislative intent, I believe, which does not. I'm not a lawyer.
No, nor am I.
To impersonate one.
Yeah, so yes, it's not explicit in the law, and it does give the agency instructions on how to, on like what your intent.
Does that work for you? Have we found in the past, like they would blow us off and never follow that?
They usually follow.
They usually do.
I think so.
I'd feel more comfortable if it was in the big bill language. That's just me being worried. I'm not trying to disparage anybody in state government or anything like
Why
that.
don't we look at it, we'll talk to legislature.
Thank you. Thanks, Grace. Is that okay?
I believe I did say Rep. Iacovone, though, not Dave.
Oh, that's it.
Mike,
I'm sorry, I was falling behind when we got to this section, technology modernization special fund section. Where we would be transferring interest to shortfalls and in the information technology internal service fund. This is the fund that we're taking the excess interest from. And I thought the rest of the dollars in here were committed. Then
Committed, however, they're not expended yet, so.
So we might have a small
So
amount
if
of
there's a
interest. income.
balance that's still sitting there and earning interest.
And that's what,
I
okay,
presume that's what would go to the deficit.
okay, thank you.
I think it's probably a fairly sizable amount. It's still, it's encumbered, but it's not gone out the door yet, so it's still sitting in the bank.
Got it.
Draining it.
okay. I was multitasking on several other language things, so I have no idea what that was, but if everybody's happy, I'll be happy. How's that? You like it?
Let me try that out another
You got yours for today. Any other language things that we're missing? We got a couple things that we'll follow up. Should we go over the governor's language?
Sounds great.
Yeah, let's just, and then we can get, and then we'll take a break and Tip can talk to you and whoever else needs to talk to you, and that'll give me a chance to look at what I need to do with the agenda, because we have more bills and things like that. So everybody should have a copy somewhere. Way back when, right, you gave us.
This was posted on the committee page on February 3rd. That's helpful for anyone looking for the electronic copy.
Give us a minute, Grady, just so we can grab the hard copy of this.
Without all the green, because you can't read the green stuff, and it's page 1 of 66, right?
Correct.
I found it.
And the committee, I think, can, once you all have it in front of you, skip ahead to page 6.
Okay. Have that at all. Got the original one. And green.
Yeah, I'm good.
1 in a million, I found it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just can I ask just the location of the electronic copy here?
February 3rd.
Okay.
Under Grady.
Which bill?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just got it.
I just emailed a link to the committee.
Yeah, because it's us.
Do you think we could be done by 2:15 on this language?
At least,
Depends on how many questions everybody
yeah,
has.
I would say I believe in this group.
Let's push everybody back 15 minutes.
And if we're done a few minutes before, then we get a break before we're hearing a couple more bills, and then we're gonna get bills after that, and I've got to get that organized, so. Okay,
But that, so I'm just now finding that, and it's, so the one that you just posted for today is payment for February 1st.
Yeah, I just reposted.
Thank you.
is it February 3rd, February 2nd?
Third,
Oh, it says second.
or is it second? It was posted on the third.
Oh, phew, okay.
It's like 1.1 of 60.
Right, that's what I got, okay. All right, let's go, Grady.
Great. So on page 6, you'll see the section B1100. This is the one-time appropriation section. So this is what the governor recommended. The first is 110,000 to the Agency of Administration for the Office of Racial Equity to include an additional year of funding for the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Action, Leadership Vermont program, Ideal Vermont. The second is also to AOA 900,000 to complete the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Ends this December, I think, or something, so that's gonna be that last of that, okay?
Then to DIVA, 300,000 general fund and 2.7 million federal funds for information technology updates resulting from HR1.
Okay,
And 2 million to DIVA for provider stabilization grants.
yeah,
In sub C, sub 1, this is 15 million. This intersects with H 938, I believe. So the one-time appropriation relating to emergency housing change in the final version of the committee bill.
right, that whole section is gonna be different.
Correct.
Are we keeping the 4 million for a temporary secure treatment facility for youth, and then we just have that language?
I believe the budget, the final one times will align with what is in 938.
Okay, great, so we're not gonna look at that one for right now.
Sub D, sub 1, this is 15 million higher education endowment trust fund to the UVM for the multipurpose center project.
And I think we're gonna take that out. And we have a report coming from the Higher Ed Trust Fund on how to do things. We have that bigger issue of lots of people requesting things for school construction, for this, that, and the other thing. Rather than do that, let's have a report from the board on how it should be used in other places. This is a huge, huge policy issue without any testimony, any serious testimony. Yeah.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, was that this was the request, but it had no. What I remember from the initial testimony on this was that it would require policy change in terms of what money should be used for.
Right.
And nothing was ever presented to us.
That's right. And in fact, the committee letters who were related to it said that they did not concur with it. So the other committees, so I'd like to take that out and we have a report, and then we'll have a better sense of how that fund might be used differently in future years, but not this year.
So that trust fund will see its, what do they call it, the windfall.
Yeah,
So that will be allowed to
grow.
grow.
Mhm. And in a year, there'll be a report. I mean, before we start back, I think it's the report that's due in December. That was in the language. And then we'll have recommendations on how it can be used.
Yeah, the report, I think is statutorily required by September, so it'll be well in advance of the coming legislative session that you'll have that information.
Thank you.
In sub E on page 8, this is $500,000 to the Department of Forest Parks and Recreation for VORUC.
All right, okay. Okay. I think we're okay on that one.
In sub F, there's an appropriation to the Department of Housing and Community Development, $800,000 for the Manufactured Home Improvement and Repair Program.
Has to be oversubscribed, so that's.
Then in sub G, an appropriation to the Department of Economic Development of $150,000 to maintain the current contract with Canadian International Economic Development Partnership to provide in-market services to Montreal-based businesses seeking to expand into Vermont.
So on that one, Tom, House Commerce talked about using some of that, I thought, for doing an Asian office.
I don't recall that. I just recall that this was a 2-year contract. And if, as compared to last year where they were asking for money that was for a larger. Last year, there was an ask for a larger amount of money to be broader in the economic development, but this, the way that they illustrated this, or not illustrated, but the way that they described this was basically, the least they felt like without ruining any momentum that we have
Yeah.
with Montreal or with
That's
Canada during these tense times between the relationships between countries that that's.
That'd be good to keep it.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually I found his committee letter and I had the numbers, but not the rated. So keeping the 150, the comment was, they supported utilizing reversion dollars from Department of Labor for 75,000 to establish another office in Southeast Asia. I just don't think we've spent any time doing that at this point. So it's something to work on for next year. Okay, so we'll keep that the way it is.
And the final one-time appropriation is to the Agency of Transportation, 1.3 million for the relocation of the central garage to the Payne Turnpike in Berlin.
Did we do that in budget adjustment too? Or is this it? I feel like I've seen it 3 times, but
Wasn't it in the T-bill this morning?
I think it was before today, I thought, or maybe it was because we went over this way back in February and I'm thinking it's something else. Okay. All right.
And then to Representative Feltus's point there, those 2 one-time appropriations that are in the transportation bill that the committee won't be taking into its budget.
All right, let's leave it with the T-bill.
Yes.
Okay, so that's that section.
Skipping to page 10, on the bottom of page 9, you'll see the section heading. This is D100 property transfer tax allocations. So these are just reflective of the allocation per the January census revenue forecast.
Standard, what we do.
Correct.
Okay.
Beginning on page 12, D101 fund transfers. I'll just skip over this section if that's okay with the committee. I think that Emily's spreadsheets deal with the fund transfers better than going through the language would.
But we are going to eliminate no, I guess we're not. Never mind. We'll skip it.
And this is the section where that interest from the tech modernization fund will be slotted into the committee saw earlier.
Yep.
On page 16 and 17, this is the reversion section. Again, I would ask the committee to just skip over this. I believe Emily's spreadsheets can deal with that better. This will just change and be updated for anything the committee determines.
Grady, on the property transfer tax, specifically the footnote, the explanation, it just says that the January census revenue forecast estimated total annual property transfer tax receipts of $82 million. Does that get updated, or is this, because these numbers are based on that estimate? Is there a final number?
So the entire budget is based on the January forecast. And then things may change pending the July forecast, and then the January, those changes would be addressed in a budget adjustment if necessary. But this is based off the January forecast, which is what the budget itself is based off as well.
What is the close date of the year that property transfer taxes? I always felt like it was like they got their number that they worked on the budget in October or something like that, or October, November, in order to set the number. Is that more accurate numbers? I'm fine with this. I'm all fine with it. I'm just curious because 82 million is a very round number.
I would have to touch base with Ted Barnett on that and get back to you. But I believe that this is the most current estimate that they have.
Thank you.
Okay, so where are we now?
I believe we can go to page 18. Again, this is the third section I would ask the committee to skip. This is the reserve section. except for the 30 million that's
Yes.
being unreserved.
So
So,
last year we did a 50 million, a 30 million, a 30 million, and the second 30 million was included a bunch of things. It wasn't federal funds related only, and the governor is choosing to unreserve that to buy down property taxes.
exactly correct.
We'll hold off on that whole section for the moment. Is that what you're saying, or are we all right to?
I-
Oh, the other numbers will change based on the end of the budget. Okay.
Yeah, these three sections are, carried and dealt with in Emily's spreadsheets, and so we update the numbers there. So you'll see in the reserve section, for instance, that 30 million is unreserved. That's the only thing that really is significantly different from the language that's typically here. And then that 30 million that's unreserved appears in that transfer from the general fund to the education fund in the transfers section. As part of that larger $100 million number, that's the 70 million balance carried forward, and then this unreserved money. Section E 106 on page 19 and continuing on to page 20. This proposes to transfer any estate tax revenue exceeding 125% of the July forecast to the general fund and transportation balance reserve. Day
reserve?
This relates to proposed changes. Currently, receipts in excess of 125% go to the higher education endowment trust fund. There are multiple sections in the governor recommendation proposing to move that. So this is part of that piece, just reflecting that movement of the estate tax. So this is not directing it to the balance reserves. This is just a statutory change relating to where the GovRec proposes to move those the receipts in excess of 125.
So this is still messing with the higher education trust fund.
Yes.
If we're not doing, I don't know that I want to do any of these until we get the report back. I think
So the committee would strike this.
I would strike that.
Section E 133, this relates to the Vermont State Employees Retirement System and VPIC. So given the committee's decisions from earlier this morning, this number would change slightly to reflect that addition of the position. So there are three sections that deal with each pension, each retirement system's contribution to VPIC. This is one section that the numbers would change just to reflect the committee's decision earlier today. The same with section E 134. It's the same language, but for the municipal retirement system. Section E 139, this is annual language that relates to grand list litigation assistance, but this would be moving it to the pilot special fund, which would align with the budget adjustment.
And we're moving the 9,000 transfer to the Attorney General, so they're getting $9,000 less?
I would have to get back to the committee on that. I don't believe so. I think it's just disaggregating the transfer so that this is pilot and
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense for that to be a pilot, so.
yeah. Section E 142 on page 22. This is standard language that clarifies that payments are in addition to and separate from the correction facility pilot payments. Section E 142.1. This is striking education fund and inserting pilot special fund relating to the changing the funding source for the lister and assessor education in section B 139, moving that from education fund to pilot special fund.
I seem to remember that we just got a letter from VLCT on this about, I don't know if it's the same. I'd have to look it up, to see if it was opposing this.
Probably, there.
Yeah. And where did this come out of? Ways and Means.
No, the theory is that it's the listers, um, give us the base for figuring out property taxes, and it should come out of the pilot fund. So
Right.
because then the money goes back to communities as well.
Right.
Okay. And is this funded by the?
Local laws.
Yes, that's okay.
So municipalities and, okay. All right, so I think we're okay with that, yeah. Okay, 142.2.
Section E 142.2 adds authorized uses to the pilot fund, including the lister and assessor education that you saw in the previous section, the reappraisal and listing assistance that you saw in a prior section as well, and the parcel payment for equalization. So this aligns statute with those previous pilot changes that you saw.
Okay, yep.
And then E 142.3 is the final part of that. So you saw the two uses. This is the third use.
And this was in the budget, this is the budget adjustment as well.
The grand list reappraisal, yes.
Yeah, so that's already, you've already agreed to do that. Okay,
E 142.4, this changes the funding source for the equalization study payments to the pilot fund. So another pilot piece here. And then E 144, this is standard language relating to the pilot payments for correctional facilities. E 200, this is annual language authorizing the Attorney General to retain 1/2 of the state share of any recoveries from Medicaid fraud settlements, excluding interest.
yeah, and she came in and talked about that, and we had to have, so, okay.
E 208, this is annual language authorizing the contract with the Essex County Sheriff's Department.
Funny that we have to do that, but here we are. Okay,
E 209, this is standard language relating to the Department of Public Safety specifying certain parts of funds appropriated to them, the purposes of those funds.
I think it's the same amount pretty much every year.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, you're okay with that one? Marty?
Yeah.
Okay.
Section E 209.1 is the establishment of the Vermont State Police Radio Equipment Replacement Special Fund. So given the timing of the replacement of that equipment, this would allow for a fund that is administered by the Department of Public Safety so that they have access to money for that equipment replacement that more aligns with the necessary replacement cycle.
Creating a new special fund that somebody gets to study next year.
I believe this one will be studied in 2029.
Okay.
The intent is to put in $500,000 a year for 10 years, so that then you will have $5 million and replace all the radios at once. And then you probably do it again.
Variation of the 2357.
Exactly. It's save ahead, this sort of thing.
Never can tell. The AI headphone that I want there.
You're this being right.
You have your own special fund, Wade.
And what did the state police?
So they have altered communication, but then.
Yes,
Yes.
and that's been taken care of. I mean, it's been.
Okay.
E 212 is standard language. This is $55,000 for a grant to the Vermont Rural Fire Protection Task Force for the design of dry hydrants.
And that, same amount forever. Yep.
E 215 is standard language relating to the VSAC Vermont National Guard Tuition Benefit Program.
Yes, and that's fine, and we'll see what they do this for next year, Wayne, because that's especially with so many deployments.
We've been giving the money back.
Yes, we keep getting reversions because they haven't used all the money.
It depends on how many people are deployed at the time when they come back.
Sure, yep.
E 217 is the first of a number of position pool sections that you'll see. So the governor recommended budget includes language relating to the establishment of positions from the position pool that I believe Commissioner Gresham spoke to the committee about some time ago. This section would also specify that 442,000 federal funds in section B 217 comprise the 75% federal share for these pool positions, which are 4 maintenance specialists, 2s, 1 military building construction specialist, and 1 military storekeeper.
Okay with all that? It's 75-25 on,
And E 218 is where you'll see the 25 state share for that. E 219 on page 31 is language relating to various honors programs and advisory councils. It's specifying the amounts for these programs. So you'll see 1,000 for the Vermont Medal Program, 2,000 for the Governor's Veterans Advisory Council, 7,500 for the Veterans Day Parade, and 10,000 to American Legion for the Green Mountain Boys State and Green Mountain Girls State programs, and 10,000 for the USS Vermont Support Group.
If you remember last year, the US Vermont wasn't in there and then put it in.
yeah,
Later.
okay, we're fine with that?
E 222 is another pool position section. So this is specifying that 95,000 general fund, 27,000 special funds, and 13,000 federal funds shall be for a permanent classified administrative services manager 3 position at the Agency of Agriculture, Food and Markets.
We're okay there?
E 232 specifies that 1.3 million general fund appropriated to the Secretary of State be for the Vermont Access Network.
Is that base?
Yes, it's appropriated in the base.
Okay, are we gonna change that number with what we've done in the other budget? So that number will change. It's in our budget, we.
We've got five.
For the 5, yeah, it's 450 for this and then the 90 for the other, so this will change to 1.8, I think. And then there'll be the 90 for the
Oh,
community.
you mean the
It'll be seven, right.
Right.
So that number will change, okay.
E 233 is another position section. So this is the conversion of 1 limited service position to a permanent classified position, financial director for within the Department of Public Service. This section, because it's not a pool position creation section, but a position conversion, will show up in the final E100 section that the committee will see that reflects other position changes that aren't pool position changes. So this.
Wasn't this in E100 the first time?
I inquired with finance and management because it was the only non-pool position. They put it as E233, but when there is an E100.
Position in E100 is what the way to have done it would be. Thank you for catching that.
E 233.1 on page 32 and continuing on to page 33. This extends the window for the telecommunications plan review from 3 to 5 years.
Gives us money and then time,
Money and time.
good things.
Things.
What's that?
It's also in a bill.
Yeah, which we present cover. That probably actually mentioned.
Okay,
Section E 300 is annual language relating to the distribution of funding for
speaking bar.
the Office of the Healthcare Advocate and Vermont Legal Aid.
we'll change those numbers because, okay,
Get a school update.
yeah. Okay, numbers should change. Secretary,
E 301. On page 34, this is annual language clarifying the source of IDT funds for the global commitment appropriation and updated estimated appropriations for state match.
so this is gonna change too, because we have other stuff, so. 301, that's the mixing bowl, so that's the last thing to get.
E 301.1, this is standard language. This is directs the Secretary of Human Services to make transfers among appropriations within global commitment appropriations outside of AHS. E301.2 on page 36, and continuing on to page 37. This extends, the federal government extended HCBS fund availability until September 2026. So this just allows for the use of those funds by AHS by extending it into FY27.
There's always a tail for. Okay.
E301.3 at the bottom of page 37, continuing on to page 38. This is allowing the Secretary of Human Services to seek an amendment to Global Commitment Waiver Amendment from CMS.
So I made a note, because I actually did read this way back in February, finding notes. I thought it was a 5-year commitment, and this is 4 years. I don't know, maybe I have it wrong. Maybe, Nolan, do you have any comment?
I'm sorry.
Top of page 38, well, or bottom, the 1115 waivers. Isn't that usually a 5-year commitment, or was it a 4-year this time?
You know, it depends. We've done 5 years, we've done 2 years,
Okay,
or 3 years. So the first one's a 5-year, and then it's been 2 or 3 years. And it's one of those things where we don't know what we're going to get with the current administration. We might want a short one.
right.
So I don't know how to answer that.
Okay, but that's the right date. Is that all I wanted to be sure is that we've got the right dates.
Yeah, I mean, you could extend it out. You could say it as long. I don't know if you want to dictate how long it should be.
I don't want to do anything. I just wanted to be sure the date was right. I thought it was long.
Okay.
That's all. It's not a mistake. That's all I want to know. Thanks.
Section E306 on page 38 is another waiver direction. This one is directive language to submit a state innovation waiver under section 1332 of the Affordable Care Act to establish a program for reinsurance and federal pass-through funding.
So there was a healthcare bill that passed this week, last week, and it needs, does it tie into this?
No. I don't think so. I'll double check.
Reinsurance, I thought was part of it. So,
I don't think.
all right, Nolan will check.
Check on that one.
Thank you. Okay,
But if it didn't, we should still keep this.
Good.
I am not clear.
It's one of those things where you could keep it, if it doesn't cost any money, but at the same time, we shouldn't apply for something we're not sure we're going to do.
Right.
Take time. So let me look in and see if that
Did
is.
you look into that? Yeah, you may not. You may not do that.
E306.2 extends the sunset of the health IT fund to July 1, 2027. So extending that sunset by 1 year.
Oh, hold on. So there was. It's just 1 year.
Yes, and so
Yeah.
there's language extending this further in, I believe,
Wait, it's
the miscellaneous tax bill.
I think they.
30.
I think they do 5 years, 4 years.
So why don't you update it in the miscellaneous tax bill because we've passed it?
There are a number of sections that were in the Gov Rec that were either addressed or either are the same as what was in the Gov Rec or were slightly changed and put in miscellaneous tax that would then be removed from the budget.
Okay, so you guys will figure all that.
Yes.
The administration, they always put this in their bill because they don't have a separate miscellaneous tax bill.
Okay,
So they would put all their language in this bill. And in the past, we pulled it out of this bill and done miscellaneous. tax.
okay, great.
We'll figure it out.
Thank
And
you.
same with the following section that will be carried in miscellaneous tax.
Okay. Great.
E306.4 authorizes DEVA to terminate contracts for the services of the Medicare Advocacy Program.
We did not keep that in the budget. So I think that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think you did, I don't think you did anything to change it. But, right?
That's right.
So you.
You were silent, so this would stay.
Correct.
Okay,
E306.5 is another pool position. So this specifies that 497,000 general fund and 497,000 federal funds be to establish one healthcare assistant administrator, one digital communications specialist two, one business project manager, four Vermont healthcare specialists, healthcare service specialists, and five healthcare service specialists two within DEVA.
Who's got this? Viva, is that you, Dave?
Yes, that's,
Yeah, are you,
this the 11 positions?
Yes.
I've been adding them 542. Yes,
you're okay?
the policy committee was okay.
Okay,
I want to say this is probably tied to the HR one.
Yes, that's my understanding.
This is around, they have more work to do to.
yes, redeterminations twice a
Correct.
year, and so,
Right.
so it's costing us a lot more administrivia to do this, which means more people, okay.
E307, notwithstand statute to allow for payments that are ordinarily made by the Secretary of Education to instead be made by the Commissioner of Vermont Health Access relating to the Education Medicaid program. There is language in, as I mentioned earlier, H558 that will also be accompanying this. So
So we'll get the right language between the two
correct.
budgets, right? But
Well,
this,
the 558 being dropped into the budget.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
right, so we're gonna take that and drop it into the budget,
Yes.
so this looks gonna change, okay.
E312 and E312.1, I will skip over. This is the language that Rep. Bloomley was flagging needs further working.
Yep.
Section E322 on page 44. This is updating state statute to align with changes to federal law that reduce the number of 3 squares Vermont households eligible for nominal home heating fuel assistance benefit.
Of $21. Is that right?
Correct.
Gas at $3.90 a gallon. Okay, so we kind of have to do that, okay.
Section E325 is standard language that authorizes spending on the HOP program.
This is gonna change with H 938. Okay. You guys will figure that out, all right?
Section E326 is annual language relating to home weatherization assistance.
That's standard.
Is it standard or is it up or down?
I think it's been the same amount for a long time.
Yes.
So by default, the prices are the same. but it-
Yes, it's
be a
down,
big
but the dollar figure is the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Corrections,
Section E338, so this is the corrections pilot payment to Newport and Springfield.
also standard. Better check our agenda.
338.1, this is another pool position section relating to 7 permanent classified probation and parole officer 2 positions dedicated to the DOC pretrial supervision program.
Is this changing yet, Trevor?
Yeah, this is coming out.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the 850 that we're pulling back.
Right, for the whole cancellation of pretrial supervision,
Yeah.
this needs to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not
That's
doing,
part
we're
of
not
the
doing
200 that
this.
we're talking about, right? Okay,
338.1.
yes, that's gonna go away. And now we're into education.
E501, this is language relating to the global commitment appropriation for physician claims for IEPs.
Is that different? No, it's standard, okay.
Correct. E501.1 amends Act 73. So this changes positions from limited service to permanent.
How is this working if E5000, oh, this is .1, not 501.
501.1.
Right, so the 50, but the 501 is getting merged with the 500. There's a 50, which are the two that are getting merged in their budget?
The request, I believe, was to maintain 501. I think in our JFO over the weekend, when we reconciled the web report, will have the AOE section and the
Okay,
numbers be E500. And then these language section numbers will be changed to align with that.
okay,
So you can disregard the actual section number for now.
okay, that's great. I'm gonna pause you for just a second because I think we have bills coming in. We're almost done with the language. I'd like to finish this. Are you guys okay if we're a little bit later? You're all okay? Thank you very much. We're gonna finish this and take 5 minutes to get a break and get out of our seats because I think we're feeling glued to them at this point. And then we'll come right back. I promise, for everybody. Okay, thank you.
Beginning on page 48, section E501.2 amends the Universal After School and Summer Special Fund statutory language. The change appears on page 49. You'll see that it's changing the allowable use of administrative costs from 500,000 to 5% of annually forecasted revenues.
Oh, so they get a 6%, right? Okay.
E501.3, the first change you'll see is just a technical correction. But monies can't be appropriated to a fund, so it's striking or appropriated from that language. But then I believe the committee will be taking this out because this is where you see the change for the Higher Education Endowment Trust Fund.
So we'll just leave 1 in, or 1 and 2.
Correct, the committee could still make that technical
Yes,
correction.
technical change, but take the rest out. Thank you.
E502, this is language specifying how much of the special education funding formula will be used. So you'll see in sub A, an amount not to exceed 5.3 million be used by AOE for funding as described. Then in sub B, an amount not to exceed 2 million be used by the Agency of Education. Section E503, this is annual language related to state place students. This is just classifying the Independence Place program of a new place as a 24-hour residential program.
Okay,
Section E504, this is the standard adult ed language. And so we'll work to reconcile these adult ed language with the adult ed language that you saw earlier this afternoon.
great, thank you.
E504, similar, we'll review this and
This is the standard
yes.
language for these things, yeah.
E507.1, this is the English learner categorical aid, just specifying that the funds appropriated in B507.1 are for categorical aid to school districts for English learner services.
Standard.
E514 is the standard language for the normal contribution to the state teachers retirement fund.
That's the normal contribution, not the catch-up.
So you'll see in sub B, there's 43 million is the normal contribution and 177 million is the accrued liability.
77 million.
E514.1, this is the state teachers retirement system contribution to VPIC. So this is that third section that will change given the committee's decisions earlier.
Okay.
E515, retired teachers' healthcare and medical benefits. This is standard language allowing the normal contribution to be funded with education funds.
Okay, so 62.6 million is the accrued liability. And then the 177 and the other one, so over 200 million. And then, yeah.
E516, I believe the committee will be removing. This is relating to the suggested change in the governor recommendation to the purchase and use tax.
Which we took care of in the miscellaneous tax bill.
Same with E516.1, the committee would be striking this section. E600 is standard language relating to the payout from finance and management to the University of Vermont.
And so that 380,000 is also standard. We just do this every year.
I'll have to verify that.
If you don't mind, maybe I've just not paid as much attention as I should, but I know we do standard language every year, but I didn't know if that was part of the standard language or not. And maybe it is because I'm looking at Vermont State College, but, oh, they help pay for VNet. I know they do that. Okay.
Yes. So that dollar amount hasn't changed year to year, and that language has appeared in prior budgets. E602 is similar language for VSAC. E603, this is annual language relating to allied health and the Vermont State Colleges, allowing or directing the Vermont State Colleges to use the global commitment appropriation in section B603 to support dental hygiene, respiratory therapy, and nursing programs.
In the next one for VSAC, they requested
For 100,000.
the amount from 300,000 to 400,000, up to 400,000 for the aspirational initiative to serve high schools. And it doesn't change the money, it just changes how they might use it. And I don't know if anybody talked to them about that. Either John or Mike before or after it was yours, but that was a request that they
I
had.
have to go back and look at my notes, which I still have, when I met with them months ago.
Could you do, one of you do a quick check with them, you guys talk about it and make a recommendation, because
And that would just be changing that.
so we just changed it to from 300 to 400, but let's just check it out and make sure that it was in their request and their budget presentation. Doesn't change the dollars.
Right.
So if you guys can just take a quick look and then get that to Grady before you can see the. Okay. Thanks, Steve.
E605.1 on page 59. This is standard language relating to the appropriation to VSAC for dual enrollment and need-based stipends. E606 on page 60. So this is another section that the committee would be striking. This is making changes to the allocation of the estate tax.
Right.
E700, this is language relating to technical corrections to the administration of the Land and Facilities Trust Fund.
This is like who has authority to do the.
Right, so it corrects authority to be under the secretary, but then it also allows for expenditures from the fund to be used for administrative support.
Oh,
Go ahead.
so you're removing authority from Department of Forest and Park, giving it to the secretary of the agency. Funding money along with it.
Not changing any money, just changing allowable uses of expenditure from the fund to include administrative support.
Wayne? You okay?
So far,
Okay.
On page 64, section E 923. So this is that transportation fund interest retention language that will be updated with the language that the committee saw earlier this afternoon. And section E 923 on page 65. This is allowing for transportation fund dollars to be used for electric vehicle supply equipment charging port purchased by the Department of Housing and Community Development. So it doesn't have to funnel through, it can directly go through the Department of Housing and Community Development. And then the effective date section, as the committee heard, there are a few sections that will need to be effective at different times than on passage or July 1, 26. So the effective date section will just be updated with what needs to happen given the final language that is incorporated into the bill.
Okay, and that 516.1 is going to go away because that was purchase and use.
Correct.
So this link, like the forest and park language that's in the governor's recommend.
Yes.
We didn't change any, except for a couple of things, most of it's in government. Okay, Grady, thank you. We're gonna take about a 5-minute break. I know there's a few people who need to talk to you about. Yes, and I need to talk to, Autumn and figure out our revised agenda because we've got 2 more bills we're gonna take up and, but take a break now.